Hi, this is the fifth installment of The Benefits of Being an Octopus by Anne Braden. Okay, Google, start a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, starting now.
We're starting on page 48. Zoe, what are you still doing here? My mom bursts back through the kitchen doors. Bryce and Aurora will be getting off the bus any second. I look at the clock on the wall. Shoot! I scoot out of the seat, swing Hector onto one hip, and sling his diaper bag onto my opposite shoulder on top of my backpack. I'm going! The door jingles on my way out, and I'm soon huffing it across the parking lot and along Route 3. Up ahead, on the opposite side of the street, I can see the people waiting for their kids. They're at the corner where Pratt Street comes in, where the bus is about to stop, where I should be standing right now. I pick up the pace, and Hector giggles as if a horseback ride from a horse that's hyperventilating is the best kind of fun ever. The bus comes around the corner and slows down to a stop. The cars that usually zip down this stretch of road come to a halt as the bus switches to its flashing red lights. I watch as Bryce and Aurora emerge from the bus door in the midst of the other kids, just like they always do, on the opposite side of the street from me. The school bus's flashing lights have stopped. Its stop sign is tucked back in, and traffic starts to move again. The other kids are heading off with their grown-ups down Pratt Street and toward the houses in that neighborhood. But Bryce and Aurora are still standing there, looking around. I'm always right there waiting for them. Always. Maybe we don't have dinner at a table every night. Maybe they have to get free lunch tickets and deal with all the shame I had to deal with when I was first in school. But at the end of the day, I'm always there to pick them up. Bryce, Aurora, I call as they run. I'm right here. But as soon as the words leave my mouth, I regret it. Because Aurora yells, Zoe, and starts running toward me, directly across the street, as though all the cars around her are just bubbles that will pop if they touch her. A car slams on its brake and lays on the horn. In the closest lane, another car skids to a stop, and the car behind it narrowly misses rear-ending it. The blare of horns is so loud that Aurora comes to an abrupt stop halfway across the road and covers her ears. But when you're at bumper level in a sea of honking, it doesn't matter how much you cover your ears. Those bubbles are still way louder than they should be. Aurora bursts into tears. On the far side of the street, Bryce is screaming and stamping his feet. He's not even looking at Aurora anymore. It's like he's gone rabid. One of the drivers rolls down his window and yells, "What do you kids think you're doing?" He starts to roll his window back up, but pauses when he looks at me. "And for God's sake, put a coat on that baby." I glance down to see Hector just in his pajamas. Hector, of course, has started crying too, and it might be just because he's about to lose all of his fingers to frostbite. Where's my layer of protective octopus slime? Where are my 8 tentacles to pull all 3 kids close to me and wrap them up so they can cry their eyes out? Aurora, you've got to get out of the street, I yell, but she just keeps crying. Aurora, I yell again. A new car starts beeping its horn. I grit my teeth, heft Hector the neglected higher onto my hip, and walk into the middle of the road. But Aurora won't let me take her by the hand. Up, she says through her sobs, her arms raised up to me. Up! So I heave her up onto my opposite hip, along with the diaper bag, and, with all of those drivers watching impatiently, stagger across the rest of the road to where Bryce is still screaming and jumping about like his feet are on fire. I quickly set Aurora and the diaper bag down in a snowbank. Don't you dare move, I say to her. Not an inch. My voice is shaking. I turn back to rabid Bryce, flailing around on the shoulder of the road. I grab a rock off the ground with my Hector-free hand and close my fist around it. Then I drop to my knees right next to Bryce and wrap him up with my arm. Bryce, I have a rock for you that I need you to hold. Ah! He keeps screaming. Ah! 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 He keeps trying to squirrel out from under my arm, but I squeeze tighter. Bryce, I say, I have a rock for you that I need you to hold. I glance at Aurora. She's thankfully still sitting next to the diaper bag. Bryce keeps squirming and keeps screaming, but it's weaker now than it was. Bryce, I have a rock for you that I need you to hold. Bryce sinks against me. I open my hand so he can see the rock. He takes it in his right hand. When things went south between my mom and Nate at the boat launch that day, I swear giving Bryce one rock after another was the only way I kept him with me. Sometimes you just need something solid that fits entirely in your hand. I quickly grab another rock off the ground. I have another rock that I need you to hold. And he takes it in his other hand. The last bit of frenzy seems to leave him. He crawls up the black-tinged snowdrift to where Aurora is perched, curls up with his head in her lap, and sobs. I reposition Hector to be inside my jacket, zip it partly around him, and sit down next to Aurora and Bryce. I wrap the two of them up as best I can and give them kisses and kisses and more kisses. Some people can do their homework. Some people get to have crushes on boys. Some people have other things they've got to do. Chapter 7. I look up when a car pulls up next to us. Just please don't be that get that baby a coat guy. Can DCF take kids away from their big sister? It's not him, but as soon as I see the driver's face, I realize it's not much better. Because when you've just been humiliated and exposed as a totally incompetent person in front of a whole bunch of people, the next logical thing is to have your constantly nagging you about your homework social studies teacher pull up next to you. Ms. Rochambeau rolls down her window. Zoe, I saw what just happened. Are you all okay? Bryce still has his face buried against my side, his chest heaving as I rub his back. Yeah, we're fine. She eyes me. Are you sure? I look down as Bryce wipes his nose on my jeans. Yeah. I was hoping I could talk to you today after class, but you left before I had the chance, she says. Did you really leave your packet at home? Is she kidding? She thinks I want to talk about homework right now? I manage to nod. Aurora looks up. Is she your teacher? She asks between sniffles. Does she give you graham crackers and juice? Ms. Rochambeau doesn't take her eyes off of me. Is your packet really completed? I told you it was. I'm telling the truth. Bring it tomorrow. You can give your opening statement and then participate in the Q&A. I freeze. Maybe I should have lied and said I hadn't done it. At least I can always forget it a second time. Ms. Rochambeau leans closer. I want you to know that you remind me of me when I was your age. I stare at her fancy turtleneck sweater and big jangly earrings. No way did she start out like me. And back then, there was one thing I needed more than anything else, she says. I told you, we're fine, I say. Her eyes don't waver. I needed to learn how to get people to take me seriously. I stare at her. Every single day, there's more and more proof that people will treat me how they treat me, and I don't have a shred of say in it. And I had to start with myself, she says. Bring in that packet and don't sell yourself short. She pulls into traffic before I can say anything in response. If I do bring in my packet, it sure won't be because she told me to. The only victory of the day is that somehow the power has come back on at home. Which is good timing because tonight is one of Lenny's guys' nights. I'm feeding the kids dinner in our bedroom because those guys get annoyed with us real quick if we're out there with them. But I didn't get enough chicken nuggets on my first trip to the kitchen, so I pick up Hector and slip back out of the bedroom. Lenny still has his jacket on because his second job at the nursing home goes until 6 p.m., but he's already holding a soda. And then I've got this new young supervisor who's on my back all the time. He's saying, you gotta wear these stupid plastic gloves, which makes sense most of the time because of how much disgusting stuff gets thrown out at an old fogey home. But this new guy says we have to be wearing them all the time. And do you know how long it takes to get a trash bag open with those gloves on? And then he's telling me to pick up the pace? He doesn't have a clue. He takes a big swig of the soda and then comes over to me and gestures for me to hand him Hector. How long have you been there now? Slider asks as I pass Hector off. 4 years next month. They hardly pay enough for it to be worth it, though. Talk about nasty. Lenny flies Hector up into the air to make him cackle a few times, and then hands him back to me. With Hector back on my hip, I go into the kitchen and pull the freezer door open. What you getting, Zoe? Lenny calls. Just some more chicken nuggets for Bryce and Aurora. I grab the bag out of the freezer. You guys can never have enough, can you? He says. Just kidding. Here, he starts coming over. You won't be able to get the toaster to work without my help. That's okay. I pop the last 4 chicken nuggets into the toaster and jiggle the broken lever down until it stays in the down position. I got it. Because that toaster's fickle. It won't let just anyone get it to work. I know, but Lenny fiddles with the lever and finally gets it back down to how I had it. There, he says, your mother can't do it either. I am not my mother, I think, but I don't say that out loud. Are you at the middle school? One of the guys calls over. Yeah, I say. I try to make the yeah come out like, well, of course I am. Is that Ms. Rochambeau still there? At the mention of her name, I feel myself stiffen. He leans over the back of the couch towards Slider. Do you remember all that stuff we used to pull? Anything to try to make her cry. You were horrible, another guy says from his spot in front of the TV. The first guy laughs. What was I supposed to do? She called home when all I did was skip a detention. I got my beating, so she had to get hers. She's my social studies teacher, I say. I don't mention that she just pulled over on the side of the road to tell me to bring my homework to school. No way, he says, slamming the back of the couch. How is she still teaching? Do you remember those notes I hid all over our classroom that said, you're an ugly hag and you'll die alone? He's laughing so hard he can hardly talk. She kept finding them for the rest of the school year. I keep my head down. I might not like her, but I wouldn't leave her horrible notes. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Bryce come into the kitchen. Out of ketchup, he mumbles to me. Lenny is at the fridge, pulling out another can of soda. Bryce silently hovers behind Lenny, waiting. But Bryce is so quiet that Lenny backs right into him as he shuts the fridge. Watch it, kid, Lenny says as he catches himself. Lenny never calls Bryce by his name. He says it's a sissy name. Somehow, he thought the name Hector was way better. Once Bryce recovers his footing, though, he just stands there not saying anything. It's like he's still on the side of the road watching Aurora about to get flattened. Lenny looks closer at Bryce. Your eyes look weird. You weren't crying earlier, were you? Bryce may be somewhere else, but he knows to shake his head no to that one. Knows that crying would be the worst thing in the world to admit to. But I'm pretty sure every single time he stops himself from crying, his nightmare factory just goes and creates another doozy for when he falls asleep. Well, don't you touch me, Lenny says. I don't want to get whatever gross eye thing you got going on. And be a man about it. No complaining, okay? When Lenny leaves the kitchen, Bryce gets the ketchup out of the fridge, and I don't stop him when he brings the whole bottle back to the bedroom. Bryce takes the 2 rocks to bed with him that night. At least when he wakes up from his nightmares, the rocks are right there for me to hand to him all over again. Lenny might be good for our family in general, but I'm not sure he's good for Bryce. Chapter 8. I put the debate packet in my backpack the next morning and have it with me when I get onto the bus, in part to get back at Lenny's friend for leaving those notes, but mostly because I want to. Because I'm going to be top of my game today. I already managed to get Bryce and Aurora out the door on time, even though Bryce kept whacking things with his lightsaber every time I turned my back. There's even a spot on the bus right close to the driver, so I don't have to be anywhere near Kaylee and her nose. I sink into the seat and exhale. When Matt Hubbard climbs up the stairs with his trumpet case, I peek to see if he looks at me. I can't tell, though. He might have, but it also might have been a mistake, because usually someone else sits here. Unfortunately, there are 4 hours between when I arrive at school and the social studies and science interdisciplinary block. And even though I try to channel Silas's impenetrable wall, stuff finds its way in anyway. Side looks at my clothes, extra long sighs from my teachers when I haven't done the homework. And by the time I walk into social studies, I'm a mess. Just thinking about all those people looking at me while I'm up in front of the class has my hands doing their shaking thing. Why? Why is this so scary? It's not like running out of food. It's not losing our place to live. It's definitely not Aurora trapped in the middle of Route 3. I try to take a deep breath. Around me, kids are going back and forth between the social studies and science room where the wall usually is, and they don't seem nervous at all. But I can't stop my hands from shaking. And when I take my packet out to put it on my desk, it's like a trembling white flag just trying to call attention to itself. What if I do it without the packet? I know my octopus facts cold, right? But as soon as I try to imagine what I would say, I can't remember anything. Everything is cleared out. It's like peering into an empty apartment the day after you've been evicted. The only thing there is a stray dirty sock that got left in the corner. All right, everyone, Ms. Rochambeau announces while Mr. Peck settles down some kids at the back of the science room. Today will mostly be focused on the second part of the debate, the question and answer period. Your goal is to get your fellow classmates to realize that your animal is better than the one they selected. A debate is always about getting someone to look at things in a new way. Matt Hubbard raises his hand and asks something, but it's like I'm underwater and not in an octopus sort of way. All right, that's our 15 minutes.